Ikonei Island, an Earthlock adventure, is another game thrown in the vast sea of a genre known for its relaxing and stress-free nature. Cozy and relaxing is the name of the game here, where you can explore, craft, and discover new things as you go at your own pace. You can pick it up, get a few things done, and can easily get back to it whenever you feel like it without feeling lost. And it's one that Ikonei Island tried to do, yet sadly, this island adventure felt a bit more detached from what it's trying to accomplish. Hear me out. I love games that doesn't particularly follow convoluted and complex stories. Stories that take too much time out of you, or stories that dive way too deep before putting me back into the helm of my exploration and path to discovery. Ikonei Island doesn't do that, which is a good sign. It starts you off with introducing a group of friends that just so happened to spot a group of pirates selling off goods and animals that they felt the need to set free. However, said pirates came back to their ship only to find them in the middle of their little rescue mission, which also prompted them to get away on a raft, and it led them to an island where the game takes place in. The island is home to many creatures, both aggressive and friendly, many of which can be your companion throughout your little adventure, which is where Ikonei Island finds itself a place for being unique among its peers. I love how they try to accomplish a sort of companionship with the island's inhabitants, and how they eventually transform, mature, or in a Pokemon Master's perspective, evolve. The longhorn, for example, which is a type of boar, grows its horns much larger, and an extra one popping out in the middle of its face, aside from its usual two off on the sides. This kind of puts a lot of excitement for me to see where the other animals would improve on. However, these animals are like rainbows and princesses too. They get easily grumpy when you don't tend to their needs, and they require a lot of pampering to be able to take advantage of what they offer. So, it takes away a bit of your time on exploration, as you try to feed, pet, and bait them from time to time. It's also an island with a lot of things to discover in bite-sized pieces, which is fairly good to see, since you start off with your friends in tow, with a lot of the areas locked down harder than Fort Knox. This puts a lot of emphasis on bite-sized exploration and discovery, so you'd at least have some sort of idea on your next objective, which the game fails to put into words most of the time. I often feel lost trying to figure out what's next or what to do, but its somewhat progressive exploration alleviates that pain into finding materials and resources that I would need for further improvements on my settlement. I enjoyed how this all comes together in paper, but after a while it does try to get complex, as the number of resources dwindle until a good night's sleep, and as my playground starts getting larger and larger. Ikonei Island is not a particularly bad game. There are good moments from time to time, especially when you're moving forward on certain objectives, like improvements in your treehouse or other facilities that need specific items to be usable. Progression isn't exactly terrible or slow either. However, I feel like the game feels too vast to keep going back and forth, as you run out of storage space as quick as you empty them, which forces you to just take the long walk home every time. There are shrines that help as fast travels though, but not to the point that it forgives the amount of backtracking I've had to do every time I need something that I left behind in my home base's storage. And it just doesn't help its cause when the game feels awful to control. Whether I'm on a keyboard and mouse or on my controller, the game just feels awkward when a lot of things are mapped on the same button, like commanding your companion to do certain actions, for example, is also on the same key to pick up objects on the ground or to interact with your companion, and this is something that changes depending on what is available to be used. You can pick up resources if you're near one, or command your companion to do certain actions, but being close to your companion would also just ruin that flow, as you'd end up interacting with that companion instead of the other actions you would have wanted to do in the first place, which is a bit frustrating. The game does have an extremely good art style though. This was one of the reasons I felt interest in the game when I saw it. Despite being stuck in an isometric view for the entire time, the hand-drawn art style was well worth it. I fell in love with how the game looks and feels, especially as it is a game that boasts in its exploration more than it is about the crafting and its other elements. The environment starts off dark and rainy, however, as you get to progress, it opens up to this beautiful view of a lush environment filled with grass swaying along the wind, and the changing environment, like the rocky terrains filled with minerals, to the winding roads and slushing sounds of the flowing rivers. Ikonei Island also offers multiplayer, which is at this point a must-have. This helps a lot in terms of progression to make it a lot better, with more bodies to drag resources around from place to place. But where it really shines is just like It Takes Two. Ikonei Island also wouldn't need everyone to own a copy of the game. A single copy would allow friends to download a friend pass and be able to play together regardless. Ikonei Island, an Earthlock adventure, is a mesmerizing game to look at, but playing it is a whole different ballgame. It has its moments of greatness with its mechanics, however, it just doesn't deliver an equally great experience, no thanks to its design choices and awful controls. It felt like a drag to just go through the game for the most part, which is a huge shame to people playing it alone, compared to being played alongside friends that help alleviate some of its mishaps. If you're playing it with friends, then by all means, it will give you some form of fun, but as a solo experience, it might not have that same effect. And for everything else gaming, choose Envision.
A community built by gamers